MCIC series. This is a short week, but we still have some sessions to offer this week. As a reminder, the MCIC series is hosted by the Department of Campus Climate, although we have a lot of other partnerships across campus that have helped make this series happen and continue to work with us throughout the month of March. Soon, Kaden will be sharing our community standards via the chat. One thing that I will ask now is to please mute your microphone when you aren't speaking. This just helps reduce background noise and is also respectful to our presenters in the space. We will be utilizing closed captioning throughout all of the sessions during the MCIC series. You should be seeing some live closed captioning at the bottom of your screen at this time. If you do not, please follow the instructions on the screen. And please message us in the Zoom chat if you're having any difficulties. As a reminder, most of the sessions for the MCIC series will be recorded. This is being done to make the sessions more accessible to those who cannot attend the live sessions and also to those outside of the UW-Platteville institution. Our sessions will be made available on our Campus Climate YouTube channel approximately 3 business days after the live session occurs. So we have many recordings already available on our YouTube channel that you can watch now. And with this one, again, you can expect it in about 3 business days after the live session. If you have questions, comments, or concerns at any time, either now or in the future, please reach out to the Department of Campus Climate. So during our time here today, you can utilize the Zoom chat. You can either message publicly or privately to myself, Emily Steyer, or Kaden. We also are monitoring our Campus Climate email address, and you can reach out to us there at any time. And now I would like to introduce the Department of Campus Climate. It is myself, Emily Steyer, and Kaden Carpentier. We are hosting a podcast club. We started this podcast club in the fall of 2020 and are going to be continuing this throughout spring 2021. This semester, we will be listening to the podcast Throughline from NPR. This program will operate much like a book club discussion. Participants will be expected to listen to the podcast prior to the designated meeting times, and the campus climate staff will lead dialogues around topics and themes presented in the podcast episodes. Our hope is that this program will provide a more accessible way to engage virtually with one another. This week's podcast episode is A Race to Know. For nearly as long as there has been a United States, there has been a census. It is in some ways how we know ourselves. And in every single census, there has been at least one question about race. The evolution of these questions and the fight over asking them is at the heart of the American story. This week, how race has played a central role in who is counted in America. I'm going to stop sharing this screen and bring up my presentation, or my PowerPoint, sorry. Okay, so this is our 4th session of the spring 2021 semester. And again, the podcast episode is called A Race to Know. One thing before we get started, a lot of us in here do have a meeting at 1 o'clock. So I know that typically we do offer to go over with any extra questions. I know that Kaden and myself will at least stay until 5 after if there is any lingering items we need to wrap up. But for today's session, we are going to end right at the hour as much as possible. So I shared this a little bit in the previous PowerPoint, but just to understand that our time here together is going to operate much like a book club discussion. So We are going to be talking about the podcast episode that we all listened to. If you didn't get a chance to listen to it, I will also share some information about it so you can still feel free to engage with this. We also understand that these episodes can't cover everything. However, we hope that this space is a way for you all to engage with intersectionality, race, identity, history, etc. And I stole this from my colleague Natasha, but I would also like to share this before we get started. A few ways that you all can engage and with this session here today. So you can use the raise hand feature if you would like to chime in at any time but are worried about interrupting me. Please just click that button. I believe it's in the participants area. I said before, please communicate via the Zoom chat. So if I ask questions or if you have feedback at any time, you can utilize the Zoom chat publicly or private message us at any time. Caden is mostly going to be navigating the Zoom chat, so if he will likely respond faster than me. You can write on our whiteboard, so we'll have a few discussion questions. And if you feel comfortable writing instead of speaking aloud, please utilize that. Unmute your microphone when there are opportunities to engage or answer questions. And then there's this reaction button that's at the bottom of your screen that looks like a little smiley emoji. And as I'm talking or we're engaging today, you can choose any of those reactions to kind of provide feedback as well. So first, I'm going to launch a poll for you all. Oops.
So, Emily, we're having some tech issues. It looks like folks who are logged in via Whova and maybe streaming aren't able to see the chats coming through as we see them here. They're coming in as symbols.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if folks are going to be able to engage with the poll if they're streaming. Are you all able to enter Zoom to watch the session? Or
Zoom asked for a passcode, and so I couldn't enter Zoom.
okay.
Okay, well, the polling questions, there's a small enough group that I think I can just verbalize the two questions aloud. I'll just share my screen again. So, the first question is, were you able to listen to the podcast episode? So, I guess if you are able to use your raise hand feature or unmute yourself and just let me know if you've listened to it. Okay, so I'm seeing a thumbs up. 2 thumbs up, at least 3. All right. How about if you feel comfortable letting me know if you didn't listen to the episode before today's session? Either unmuting yourselves. Okay. Do we have anything in the chat, Caden?
We can't see any of the messages.
Oh.
They're just showing that the messages are encrypted.
Okay. So I'm going to assume that the majority of us did get a chance, but I will still briefly go over what was presented. And then I think that just because of the ways that we're maybe not able to engage, I'm going to assume that we are mostly in the camp of somewhat familiar with the US Census, but we probably have a few things to learn, or maybe we learned a lot in this episode. I certainly did. So I'm going to go ahead and shift us forward then. So I have 2 slides to just recap the episode. So in 1790 was the first US Census. And as a reminder, the larger, this was used to count population. Obviously, that's what the census is about mostly. And the larger the population in your state, the more representation you had in the House of Representatives. But at the time, women, children, and enslaved folks had no political rights. So the question became, should we count them? Should we not? How would we count people that we don't really see as people with any political power or rights, etc.? And so there was this kind of tension between the North and the South. The North thought, well, if the South is going to count the enslaved folks that they have in their states, we know that's going to mean that they're going to have more political power in the House of Representatives. And so we don't really like that idea. And the South was like, oh, well, yeah, we know that. And so that's why we do want enslaved folks in our states counted, because then we will have more political power. So I think that we maybe all learned this maybe somewhere in eighth grade, maybe in high school, about the Three-Fifths Compromise. So that's what they came to an agreement on, that enslaved folks would be counted as 3/5 of a person when counted in the US Census. And so it really got into this complicated mess, but that is what happened with our first census in the United States. Jumped forward to 1850. The census was used to justify racial superiority. So at the time, questions regarding race were about color, like specifically color of people's skin. And so they added the term mulatto, which is not considered an acceptable term anymore. I will not continue to verbalize it after this, but letting you know. And that was really to understand what racial mixing was happening between specifically whites and black folk. And they wanted to use this data to try to prove an unfound correlation between those who were black or mixed race, and a correlation between mortality rates. So there was a lot of pseudoscience happening at the time. And also there was rhetoric going on that actually blacks or people of color more holistically were actually different species of human race than whites, and that whites were the superior species. And if we can prove this correlation between people of color and mortality rates, we will know that eventually over time people of color will die out, and that the white race will continue to move on and survive. Um, in the 1890 census, we that is the time when eugenics becomes a thing. So this is when they're asking now about race instead of color. And the ways that they're doing this, I forgot the terms. It's something like quarterton or eighthton or something like that. But it was basically to understand, do you have any ounce of black or person of color within you? Are you a quarter black or native or Hispanic? Or are you an eighth black? They really leaned heavily on black. And this was really to assess white superiority or white purity. In the 1900s, we moved to the concept of separate but equal. We really know that equal was not true, however. And at the time, it was okay to allocate resources based on race. So, if you, particularly, we saw this kind of transpire in the South, where there was a heavier population of people of color, and specifically Black and African American folks. And that, even at the hands of the state, separate, yes, you might have separate schools, equal, I really doubt it. And states were legally allowed to say, well, here's money for the white school, and here's a little bit of money for the black school. And there's also a really large time of immigration. So we had more immigration from Japan and China. And so the government in our nation was really at a reckoning of like, so now how do we count those folks? Because what's the difference? How do we understand race now? What's the difference between nationality and race? And who do we allow to be white? And who is a person of color? Or who is Black? Or how do we move forward in utilizing the census? In the 1930s, the census introduces a new term. I've written it here and I'm not going to verbalize it. That was also the time that they enforced the one drop rule. So if you had any indication of Black ancestry in your family, you were then counted as Black. The term that is written here was actually in the census until 2010, and it was just removed for our recent 2020 census. In the 1960s, during the civil rights movement, the census was really used as a tool of empowerment rather than oppression. So, a lot of people of color, as we saw with other marginalized identities at the time, LGBTQ folks, disabled folks, et cetera, were really coming into embracing their identities and wanting to be identified. So, at that time, it was embracing the terms and categories that the census had for race, although not as comprehensive as what we have today. Again, it was sort of taking back what had been used to really separate folks. And then from the late 20th century to today, there has been advocacy for new terms like biracial and multiracial. But as I was doing research for this, we will see what was and have a reminder. I know likely we all completed the census, but a reminder of what were the terms in association with race on our recent 2020 census. Any questions or feedback before we move forward? Are there any more tech things going on I should be aware of?
Yeah, hey Emily. So I just connected with a Hoover representative. Apparently there was a recent Zoom update that is now out of sync with Hoover.
Mm,
And because of that, the chat features are not working. They're not communicating accordingly together. So the update is coming. We don't know when, but until then, unfortunately, our chat features are likely going to be off for folks that are viewing through Hoover.
okay. So what I will ask then, I know that folks may not be as comfortable, but if you aren't able to utilize the chat because you're using Hoova, if you are able to unmute yourself, if you want to provide any feedback or ask any questions for the session. And yeah, apologies for the update and inconvenience with that. That sucks, but hopefully we can get that figured out.
I can also verbalize the meeting passcode if that would help. And I do apologize for the passcode being required. That's unfortunately another Zoom and Hoover communication issue. But for those that need the passcode, if that's something that you'd like to use, the passcode is 904705. Does anybody need me to repeat that? Okay. All right, Emily, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So when I was doing research for this, one thing that I stumbled on is not only is race a really important thing to consider in our US Census, but prior to the race question is a question about Hispanic or Latino origin. And so I looked up why do we ask that and why do we ask that separately? So I'm just going to verbalize this aloud. So the reason is local, state, tribal, and federal programs use these data, and they are critical factors in the basic research behind numerous policies, particularly for civil rights. Data on the Hispanic and non Hispanic populations are used in planning and funding government programs that provide funds or services for specific groups. These data are also used to evaluate government programs and policies to ensure that they fairly and equitably serve the needs of the Hispanic population and to monitor compliance with anti-discrimination laws, regulations, and policies. So as you can see now, we are in a place where we are hopefully using this data to work towards a more equitable um, space and country. Yeah, Amanda, go ahead.
So I do it. Well, I teach biology, first of all, and I do a race case study. Well, the case study is actually bigger than race because it's about skin color and the evolution of it. But one of the things that I do have on there is we talk about race and some things related to race. And I ask the students to tell me what the predominant races are before we talk about it as a social construct. And they almost always will come up with Hispanic or Latino or Latinx or, different terms as a race, which then brings us to an idea that, or we have some discussion about that if you look at Latin America, that you have the same races there. That is a cultural or a national type of a title, not a race category.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to be getting into here. So thank you for bringing that up. When we think about the US Census, they specifically indicate that Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin are not races. So this question is question 5. This is exactly how it appeared on the 2020 census. And persons were asked to choose one of these options, right? What do we feel about this being delineated away from the generic race question, which we will get to in a second?
Can you ask that question again? Sorry, I was reading it.
Yeah, so I guess what are our thoughts on this question being separate from the race, from asking about race, and them specifically saying that the identities provided here are not races, but are more nationality based?
I think because this group of people has been marginalized and discriminated against, if the question truly is related to providing funding or support, that it's okay. But if it's for something else, something negative that I don't know about, I would feel definitely different about them collecting this information.
Yeah, I think that is a good point. And it kind of doesn't really line up with what we think about when we think about the term people of color, right? So I'm going to jump forward to the race question, and then I think we will see sort of the dichotomy between these two questions and why perhaps phrasing it this way or in this order maybe doesn't quite make sense. So why do they ask the race question on the US Census? So every 10 years since 1790, the US Census Bureau has counted everyone who lives in the country as required by the US Constitution. The census collects basic information including age, sex, Hispanic origin, and race for every person in every household. Starting in mid-March 2020, everyone will be asked to complete the 2020 census online, by phone, or by mail. The race and ethnicity questions provide important statistics. Responses to census questions provide a snapshot of the nation. We ask about a person's race to create statistics about race and to present other statistics by race groups. In 2010, for example, the statistics illustrated the nation's changing racial diversity, as well as size, growth, and geographic distribution of various racial populations. In addition, the data collected in these questions is needed by federal agencies to monitor compliance with anti-discrimination provisions of laws, such as the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. Again, pretty similar to why do we ask about Hispanic origin, right? And actually, in the 2010 census, the third most populous racial group was other, and was the written in answer, some other racial group, or abbreviated SOR. And I think we will see why. So if you are a Hispanic or Latino person or of Spanish origin, what race are you in this? Anyone? I'll give you a second to look this over, but what would be a natural box for you to check?
There isn't one.
Right. Yeah, there is not. So in a study that spoke with folks of Latinx or Hispanic origin, they asked them, so when you complete the census, what do you choose? And a majority of folks choose white. And they choose white for a myriad of reasons, because they understand social capital. They don't know what else to choose. Some do the SOR or some other race and write in their race, but they honestly don't know what else to choose, so they just choose white. So, how accurate then would our racial composition data really be, right? If we're truly recognizing that we have a large influx of Hispanic and Latinx and Spanish folks in our country, but then we have no federal census data to really back that up. We have we have nationality, but so they're Hispanic, but they're white, which is possible, right? Or they're Hispanic, but they're black, which is possible, or they're mixed, right? But there is no one category if they were simply Hispanic and Mexican or something. Like, just doesn't exist. It's pretty wild. So I know that this graphic is blurry, and I apologize for that. But Pew Research Center, oh, I'm going to blank on where this came from. This is in my resources. But basically, what has been happening is over the years, they have studied this phenomenon of delineating the Hispanic, Latino, or Latinx and Spanish origin question, and then having the race question. And what they have found over years of research is that actually, if you combine both questions into one, like you see in this kind of smaller box over here, I appreciate it. It is blurry, but I think you can understand the gist, is that people actually answer more accurately, because there is a Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin category combined with all other racial identities that are on the census. And this study was presented and said, like, hey, this is really best practice. However, the White House Office of Management and Budget did not implement these changes for the 2020 census, despite the years of research. So why? I can't really say, but we do know that the combined question approach does lead to more accurate answers. So I thought that was really interesting as I was looking up information about this. What does this group think? Do you think that we should continue with delineating with it having two different questions? Do we like the combined question approach?
I mean, for me, looking at it, it seems like the combined question approach is going to be much more accurate and give a better picture of things than the old the separated out questions.
Yeah. Certainly might be less confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know that I'm always confused because, as some of you know, my biological father is Mexican, and I didn't grow up culturally in that race or heritage or whatever you want to call it. So when it comes to that question, I'm like, well, technically, I suppose I am, but I never indicate that I am because I don't identify as that. So it does get really, really confusing for me. And sometimes I'm like, am I gonna get in trouble or for like not identifying that? But I don't personally identify as Hispanic or Latinx or anything. But technically speaking, I guess I am. So it just, yeah, it's really confusing that they are separated. And I think it just speaks to, like, not everybody identifies as what their biological makeup is. So that just makes things more difficult to interpret, I think, if any of that made sense.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. And actually, when I was researching this, everywhere on the census website was very clear that you should choose the identity or identities that you identify with. That phrasing like kept coming up time and time again. And I forgot to point this out previously, but um, oh, it's on this one actually, and it's really small. But when you go onto the census website and they expand more on what is white, so as the census is saying, white also means Northern African, Middle Eastern, like you can see here, example, Egyptian. And I want us to think like society and nationally. When we think about someone from the Middle East, when we think about someone from Iran or someone from Egypt, do we as a society code them as white? Do we treat them as white? Do they have the same privileges as most folks that are of Western European origin? No. So why then are we asking them to identify as white on the census when in all other areas of society we treat them as people of color? I don't know. I just found it an interesting dichotomy in how the census defines white. One more thing before we get to our discussion questions. So if you read thoroughly as well, you will also see that you don't have to fill out the national origin question. You also do not have to fill out the race question. But this is a quote from the website as well, and it's the same answer you'll get if you don't fill out your race question. So if you don't, I'll just read this aloud and then kind of interpret this how I see it. So if an individual did not provide a Hispanic origin response, their origin may have been assigned from previous census records or federal administrative records, if available, or was allocated using specific rules of precedence of household relationship. For example, if origin was missing for a natural born child in the household, then either the origin of the householder, another natural born child, or spouse of the household was allocated. So to me, this top paragraph means you don't have to fill it out, but if you don't, a response will be given for you whether you like it or not, right? Based on who else is living in the house, perhaps the 2010 census if you filled that out, etc. If Hispanic origin could not be assigned from other sources and was not reported for anyone in the household, then the Hispanic origin of a householder in previous processed household with the same race was allocated to the individual missing a response. So to me, this says that if I did not fill this out, but the person who lived in my house previous to me did, they just used their response? I want folks to know, I want to know, do you all feel like I'm reading this correctly, or am I missing what they're saying here?
I've read it a few times and I'm still confused. I'm trying to figure out what it actually is trying to say.
It reminds me of one time my husband and I were trying to sell our home. And there was a lien against the home because somebody whose name was spelled similarly to the person who owned the house before us owed money to somebody. But it wasn't even the person who owned the house before us. It was just their name was similar. It reminds me of that.
Right. So I guess we can at least agree this is confusing and is worth at least trying to unpack or understand before you may or may not choose to fill out the Hispanic origin question or the race-based question, because for my quick understanding of this, sure, I do have the choice of not filling it out, but I also therefore am perhaps allowing an answer that is not accurate or is based off of those around me to be filled in. It's simply not just going to go unchecked for like the box is not going to be blank forever, right? Something will go in its place, whether that represents my identity or not. So I'm not saying that this is necessarily the wrong process to go with. If you need data and no one fills out the race question, right? Like you have to get it from somewhere. I understand that. But I also think it's good for us to know that when it says you don't have to fill out these questions, what does it mean though if you don't? Just good for our understanding. I know that we all already took the 2020 census, but next time around, I suppose worth reading the fine print on things. So, it seems like we might be in a complicated place regarding the whiteboard, so I'm not even sure if that's worth trying. Do you think, Kaden, we should bring that up or just maybe have a verbal discussion together?
Yeah, if you're accessing through Whova, I'm not sure if you're able to, I don't think you're able to annotate on the screen, but I could still pull the questions up.
Okay,
If
we
you'd
can
like.
still do that, and then hopefully we can all just chat together as well. Okay, so the first question I have for us to consider then today is what is the difference between race, ethnicity, and nationality? And as a reminder, if you are able, you can click the view options and annotate at the top of your screen. If you would like to type something on this whiteboard, otherwise, please feel free to unmute yourself and we can chat about this question or any other questions that you got from the brief information I presented at the beginning. So any thoughts? Anyone want to take a stab at what is the difference between these three terms?
I'll take a stab at it. At
Okay.
least for me, when I see these, this is kind of my line of thinking. So for me, when I see race, I think that that is like your, genetic origins that you get from your family. So my family back forever, I believe, was white, 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 white. So genetically, I'm white. Ethnicity is more your culture. So what you are raised in. So, you could be a white American, but you could have, more of a Southern white American ethnicity, or a upper Midwestern, which is definitely what I am. And then nationality is, like geography, where your country of origin is from. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of how I understand it as well. I think that when Amanda brought up in the beginning, though, of the complexity of, like, specifically when we were referencing Hispanic or Latinx populations, like, those lines can be pretty blurred, though, because we as a society code them as people of color, but what is their race? We as a country got pretty well established with black and white, and then after that, with immigration, we just kind of got confused and we're like, I don't know. And also, yeah, a complex of who gets to be white and who doesn't. Amanda, I saw you unmuted yourself too, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add that really they're all social constructs, and we sometimes think that we can assign someone else to a group, but because they're social constructs, we really can't. We can describe what they look like, certainly, but we can't know for sure. And there's so much overlap. I would really, as far as, well, especially ethnicity, would describe myself as a mutt. Because, you look at who my grandparents are, and one was Czech and one was German and one was I'm a mutt. But when people look at me, they would describe me as white.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point, like socially coded as white and social constructs. We've just put these sort of arbitrary boundaries on these terms, but like you said, it's really complicated and there is a lot of overlap for sure. Any other thoughts on this question? Guess maybe one thing I would add to this is it important for us to know these differences from each other or in our nation? We're talking about the census, in this particular discussion. So what is the benefit of knowing these differences?
I think that if race hadn't affected how people have been treated in the world for centuries and centuries and centuries, then no, because like Amanda said, it's a social construct. But it has vastly affected how people have been treated. So I feel like, no, we don't have a need to know, but I think that we have a responsibility to acknowledge that people of different races, or who is perceived of different races, have a vastly different lived experience. And if we ignore that and we just say, well, from my perspective, everything's great, so it must be great for everybody else, then we're not making things better for other people.
Yeah, Natasha, I think that's a really good point. And I think that we could, mirror that identity or that concept that you brought up to a lot of other identities. We can think about gender as a social construct too, and yet we know that people of different genders are treated differently. So like you said, it is a social responsibility to understand what is that treatment? How does it operate? How has the history compounded to where we are today? Yeah, I think that's a really great point. Jason, did you want to share anything?
Yeah, I was just thinking, and like for me personally, it seems like the ethnicity piece in our country seems to get lost a lot of times, especially with, I think, with white Americans, where, it just becomes like we're white. But when you dig deeper, it's like, for me personally, my maternal grandpa, his parents immigrated from Poland. I think it was like in the early or late 1920s. And so, looking back at that, and just kind of, again, things are a lot more complex sometimes than what they seem. And I think, and sometimes I wonder too, especially with white people, um, with there not being as much of a focus on that ethnicity piece, I wonder how much, impact that has, like, in terms of, again, like 2 generations out of, one part of my family were immigrants. And, it wasn't that, in the context of time, it wasn't that long ago. And, again, when that gets ignored, a lot of that piece of things gets lost.
Hmm. Well, and I think that also it ties into what we know is that if, you know, white supremacy and whiteness in our country is superior, you don't have to identify strongly with an ethnicity because it's so ingrained all around you, whiteness, white culture, white identity, that there's no need for white folks or those who identify as white to have to delineate themselves. I think it's also a function of privilege, but I also hear what you're saying in that folks perhaps are losing though pieces of their past that could still be part of their present that, could, be enriching, or cultural norms or foods or traditions. And because of the whiteness all around us, that can be lost so easily, and nothing is really lost because it's so saturated around us every day. And by that I mean whiteness and white identity.
Yeah, and going along with that a little bit, too, I wonder if, part of this whole narrative sometimes of like, especially hearing it come from white people of like, this is our country, this type of thing. But when you look at the history and a lot of, again, if you look at the ethnicity, most of our families immigrated here. Like, this isn't, like, I I'm trying to think of how to say it differently, but that's just kind of a thought that popped into my head in terms of like, well, there's the immigration is part of, most of our histories. And
Yeah, definitely. So I know that we have about 7 minutes left, and there's been a lot of things brought up today. Like, I saw a lot of heads nodding at the beginning when I suggested that perhaps we learned a lot listening to this episode about the US Census. And I brought a few more points up, about some specifics regarding the nationality and race question. So I wanted to bring forward, out of the different discussion pieces that were brought up today, what would you like to learn more about, or what are you still curious about? And definitely feel free to use the whiteboard if you are able to or want to, or just unmute yourself as well. I guess like I can start for me when I was reading, the reasonings for asking the Hispanic and Latinx origin question and the race question, and them indicating that this data was used for maintaining anti-discrimination laws and policies and perhaps investing in programs that, for the betterment of those who are marginalized. I think that I want to see those results and what have they been utilized for. I had never been aside from taking the census, never been on the census website. It is very thorough. So I'm sure that I could find that information there, but that's something that I'm still curious about. So how have they utilized this data and these questions that we're specifically focusing on today for the betterment of our country? So that's my takeaway.
I think something this conversation has brought up for me is just a reminder that of how many identities are not properly represented in the census and how much data we miss because of that. And it was just a few years ago that gender and sexuality were removed, and I think about the census that was just performed and how, when I was looking at it, I just found so few options that reflected how I represent myself, and how I feel. And so, and then when we think about things like bathroom, when we have these larger issues like bathroom access or sports for transgender kids and things, and just how beneficial it could be to get an accurate count of how many folks are out there, so that when these arguments come up, it's not just minimized or dismissed as, oh, well, it's only a few thousand people that this is going to affect. I think that could be really crucial. And at the same time, I think it's also really scary to think of the government collecting that kind of information, right? Because we do know that has been used, that data has been used to harm folks of marginalized identities, just like undocumented folks. So I think it's obviously there's a lot of room for development needed, but the census is so crucial in so many ways, but yet it's also harmful in a lot of ways too.
So I think I have trust issues when it comes to collecting of data like this. But on top of all my usual trust issues related to those kinds of questions on the census, this time around, the 2020 census, a huge group that I think potentially got missed was college students. And my reason for this is because the year started and we did not know that we would have massive numbers of college students returning to their homes. And yet I'm guessing lots of households completed their questionnaires, and in the questionnaires it said you were not to include your college students if they lived away from home. They completed them before April 1st, which was the specific date that it said. So I guess I wonder why are we filling out a census about a future date when honestly nobody even knows who's going to be alive on April 1st if you're answering the question on February 15th. Why is it set up like that and not recording data after the fact? So, if the data was supposed to be about April 1st, why were we not filling these out between April 2nd and the end of the year or something?
That's a really great point.
Yeah, it's a super great point, Amanda.
I think one thing for me that I'd want to know more of is especially like when the census like goes through revisions for whatever reason, like how much those are influenced perhaps by whatever political party is in power at the time. I think that would be interesting to see what effect that has.
Right, and maybe like the reasoning behind why they didn't adopt the combined question approach. I mean, I know that's one probably suggested revision, but after years of research, what was the justification for not changing it? But I think that's a really good point. Like, who decides, and yeah, what are the reasonings? I know that we are right on time, and we said that we are going to try to wrap up as close to the hour as possible. Really apologize for the Zoom Hoover mashup difficulties today. Did not know about an update that was coming and did not know about these difficulties. So thank you all for still engaging and being here and interacting in the best ways that we could today. And hopefully tomorrow is better.
All right,
So
see you later, everyone.
thank you so much.
Mhm.
Have a good